Hi, I'm Shelley Maurer,
And I'm Cher Emmerich. Welcome to Life Lessons from Pickleball,
where we engage with pickleball players from around the world about life on and off the court.
Thanks for joining us. Welcome, everyone, to Life Lessons from Pickleball. We're so delighted you're with us today, and how thrilled are we to have Denise and Will Richards as our guests. They are the dynamic duo behind Dill Dinkers, which is the fastest growing indoor pickleball franchise in the U.S.
Denise, with over 2 decades in sales and management, you serve as the heart and soul of Dill Dinkers, ensuring each club operates smoothly and fosters community.
And Will, you bring a wealth of experience from your time in the Air Force, Domino's franchising, and the nonprofit sector, steering the strategic growth of the brand.
Before we get into talking about Dill Dinkers, how did you first come across pickleball and how did it become a shared passion?
I think it was all my fault. So it was the middle of the pandemic, kind of towards the tail end when people were trying to get out again. And we had been locked in the house like most. Our kids were grown, so they weren't very entertaining. They were probably, I don't even think they were at home. But anyway, I was kind of getting a little restless. I was grocery shopping one day, and I saw a pickleball set on the shelf. And I thought to myself, that's it. That's something we can do during the pandemic, and we could do it together. And so I had heard a little bit about pickleball from my friends, but I didn't really know how to play or anything like that. So I picked up the set and brought it home and showed it to Will and said, we're going to learn how to play pickleball. And so he was on board, and we just called our friend and said, hey, do you know how to play? And he took us out to the courts, and we started playing. And a fond memory of mine is we went to these courts, and a lot of people there was only 2 courts, so a lot of people were there waiting to play. And us being brand new, we weren't really ready to go live and play with others. But they insisted upon us coming out on the courts with them. And I said no about 3 times, and they literally pulled me out there. And so we played with these people who had been playing for a while, and they were so welcoming and so helpful and so patient. And that was just the best first experience you could ever wish for.
It is so typical, don't you feel,
Yeah.
with pickleball community, so inviting and welcoming. What a sweet story for you to start out that way.
Ben and Colin Johns, their parents live near us.
Oh,
And we found out later that those 2 courts for a long time were the only courts in Maryland. And Ben and Colin used to practice there way before they became, really popular within pickleball. That was the courts that they kind of got started on.
That is really cool. So you knew them when?
Well, we actually didn't know them until we became, Dill Dinkers. But they were out there. Their family is from there, and that's where they practiced before they became. Like the first time when we opened our first facility, somebody, Brian Lloyd, our director of pickleball, said, "Colin Johns is coming to teach a class." I'm like, "Who's Colin Johns?" Like we literally had no idea who these 2 kids were.
But we do now.
Oh,
You do now.
we do now.
As does the world.
Yeah.
How long were you playing before you decided, let's start this massive endeavor of Dill Dinkers?
It was less than 6 months.
Yeah.
What?
Really?
Yeah, really.
6 months from when you saw the paddles on the shelf?
Yeah.
Oh, my word.
Yeah, we started playing in the summer of 2021 and just became so addicted, just like most people, and had this great group of friends, and it just kept growing and growing. And we had our regular routines going, and then when the winter came, it was really hard in Maryland. The courts, they were open limited hours. I had to stay up till midnight to get courts for the next day. And if I waited till 12:05, they were all gone. And it got super frustrating. And when we did get courts, then we had to spend 45 minutes cleaning them off because they were wet or covered in leaves or snow or rain. We'd bring out squeegees and towels and blowers and you name it, we were out there determined. So, but it was quite a drag. I mean, it was, you know, you never knew when you could play or when the weather was going to get in your way and you were going to be disappointed.
Remember when we played inside on a handball court? We brought in a net and set it up on a handball court, and Denise and I would play each other. It was she
Yeah,
beat
that's
the
how desperate we
crap out
were.
of me. It was fun.
Yeah.
A
So,
handball court. That echo must have been pretty
It
wild.
was bad.
oh,
Yeah.
and you could only do it with two people. We were just bouncing off the walls because you know we were
Oh my,
surrounded by four walls, so it was interesting. But it was better than nothing, you know.
Yeah.
right?
So, Will, do you want to tell the story about what happened in February in Pennsylvania?
So we got married with another couple together in the Bahamas many years ago. So
Nice.
every February 15th, we get together with them and kind of
Oh,
celebrate our anniversary. And they were pickleball players as well up in Philadelphia. So we went to visit them with no intention of playing pickleball, but we started talking about it. And Karen Chaplin, our friend, was, hey, I know a place we can go. So we booked some courts and we drove out down this long country road, it seemed like, to a barn in the middle of
Mm-hmm.
nowhere. And there were 5 pickleball courts inside this barn, but there was no heat and there was no restrooms.
Oh,
But the
wow.
place was packed. People were playing pickleball with their winter coats on, and there was no structure. It was but people were having fun, and that's where I got the idea. Like, wow, we could do this, and we could do it better. Just give them heat and restrooms and some rules, and we'll just take it from there. And that's probably the reason why we stumbled upon the idea so quickly. I don't think we ever would have thought about it unless we went to Doylestown Pickleball and experienced that. But it was interesting because even though they didn't have any amenities other than a barn, um, people were still enjoying themselves, and we had fun too. And that's when the idea first came to my mind, and that was probably the first time Denise said I was crazy. Um,
Oh my gosh. And so tell us what it is. How did you end up designing it and knowing how to do it and where was your first facility?
It's a really good question. I mean, talk about starting a business from scratch. There was nothing to go on. There was no indoor places in Maryland at all. We were the very first ones.
Wow.
There was a place in Virginia that had opened that we could visit and talk to, but we started from scratch and we just researched a lot of other indoor places online to see what they were doing and what was working, what wasn't working. Will did a lot of that research and got on everyone's websites. And, you know, we took those ideas plus our own. We learned a lot from playing on the public courts about what we liked and what we didn't like. An
mhm.
example is we hated that every 5 seconds somebody's ball was flying in our court and we had to stop playing.
Yep.
We also hated when people had to walk across our court to get to theirs.
Yep.
And so, with that in mind, as an example, we put private fencing around our courts and private entrances. So, people really like that because it's continuous play, and very rarely does a ball fly in your court. So,
Nice.
it adds to the experience for sure.
Yeah, there was a lot of research, a lot of measuring and remeasuring. I remember people like asking me what I was doing with a measuring wheel on the outdoor courts, and I'm like, I'm working on something. Um,
Remember when you took the duct tape and you laid out all the courts with duct tape in this
yeah,
open warehouse, like just to make sure everything would fit properly. And
yeah,
yeah, it
there
was
was a
pretty
lot of
crazy.
things our first location wasn't even on the market. We found it through a broker who said, "Oh, I know a place," and because I had looked for probably 2 months and couldn't find anything. And I walked in, I'm like, wow, this is it. And it had a snack bar and it was all ready to go. But when I designed it and I was doing the pro forma on, the business, is this going to work? We had to get rid of the snack bar to make room for another court.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of research, and our business backgrounds definitely applied to it. Our experience on the outdoor courts, what we didn't like, we just literally just said, what are the things that we could add that people want, and what are the things that we want to make sure that we don't make the mistakes that other people have made. I mean, there was a lot of research on YouTube, and it was a lot, and we came up with a model and a setup that worked, and people really enjoyed it. And our first facility was 6 courts in Columbia, Maryland. And I'll never forget the day we opened, and we thought everything was ready and we were ready to roll. And there was 40 people in the lobby of our first facility staring at their phones, not knowing what to do next. So it was a lot of learning for sure.
Did
Yes.
you have a class right away for people, or how did you introduce everyone to
Well,
what to
we
do once they
quickly
got there?
figured out that we needed to provide more guidance. So we quickly threw together a bulletin board. This is what you do, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then every club that we opened after their first one went more smoothly. So now when a franchise opens a club, that's not an issue at all. Like they
Wow.
already know in advance what it is they need to do, how to book a court. And we have a whole team of people that train our franchisees. Denise leads the team. They
Nice.
get a lot of training beforehand. So when it comes time to open, most of the hiccups that we had are all gone now.
Yeah, it goes a lot smoother. And also to answer your question a little bit about the programming part of it, Will and I early on realized we don't know anything about pickleball programming, and we needed help. So we hired Brian Lloyd to be our director of pickleball at Columbia, and he really put together the program that we have today. And it's one of the biggest differentiators for us, and it's really what helped us to build the business and create community and just bring people together and ensure that the clubs are going to be successful. So a lot of people take that aspect for granted, and I think programming is really a key part of being successful.
Yeah, the original plan was essentially just to put some pickleball courts in a warehouse. And then we met Brian Lloyd. Brian was a professional basketball player. He went to Brown University, and he was the pickleball pro at a local tennis club just because he
I
loved
see.
pickleball. And he wanted
I
to
see.
get out of corporate America and transition into pickleball. And this is funny. When we signed our first lease, we had no idea there was going to be a press release. It was hilarious because we went one day from just being Will and Denise to the following day we were on the evening news. It was crazy.
Bombarded. We were bombarded.
Our phones were blowing up. Oh my God, I was going to do that, blah, blah, blah. And then Brian Lloyd, he was one of the people that contacted us. And he said, we need to talk. And I'm like, well, what do we need to talk about? Then we met him at a Barnes and Noble for like what I thought was going to be a 10 or 15-minute discussion. It turned out to be over 2 hours.
Oh, wow.
And we walked away from that like, wow, we don't know anything when it comes to programming. So Denise and Brian and I, we look at ourselves as the 3-legged stool that is Dill Dinkers. You take one away and it'll fall over. And Brian is probably one of the main reasons we're where we are today because of what he brought to the table. We each brought something really significant, and by themselves it wasn't enough, but together it created something powerful.
Wow. So you didn't go into it at all thinking about franchising in the beginning?
No.
Is that
No,
right?
no.
You're
I
just
only
gonna create
agreed to one, okay?
So you created the facility so you'd have a place and your neighbors would have a place.
Yeah.
And then what?
Was very successful. And I'm the type of person where if you give me an inch, I'll take a mile. So we quickly transitioned into, wow, this is amazing. And, part of it was the community that we set up and the impact it had on people's lives. Like Denise can tell you all the stories because she was there more than myself because I was still working my full-time job. Denise quit her job to run the facility. But she would tell me the stories of people that came to her and said, this has changed my life. This has impacted getting me out of the house, getting me healthier, helping me recover from, something terrible that happened in one's life. But yeah, she could tell you more stories than I can. I witnessed one of those stories when I happened to be by one day. This older woman came up and said, I'm a widower and this got me off the couch and I just want to thank you.
Wow.
So there was the business part of it, but there was also the impact it had socially on people that we really liked. And that's kind of how it got started to open more of them.
So then we opened 3 more corporate locations within 10 months.
Yeah.
It
all
was
in Maryland? Or
yes.
yeah.
Prior to us starting the franchising.
Oh, I see. You
Mhm.
opened them yourselves. You managed you found managers, or you managed them yourselves?
We found managers.
Managers. Oh,
Yeah.
I see. Wow. And
Mhm.
from when you started the first facility to when you finished your fourth, I guess it would be,
Mhm.
how much time elapsed during all that?
It was about 5 months.
Are
Guys.
you
No, it was
kidding
more,
me?
belay that. It was more like 7 months. We opened the first one in November, and by, no, it was late June, we had 4 open. Now
Wow.
That,
we would have had 6 open, but um, one of the 6 took a lot longer than we anticipated because it was going into a mall, and they had a
uh-huh.
lot. It took a year to build that one,
Uh-huh.
and then another one we just couldn't get it done because there was a lot of, between the landlord and us, and it went off the rails a little bit because the landlord was not being reasonable.
Yeah.
In hindsight, I'm really glad we didn't open that one because part of the way of successfully franchising is you open different types and you figure out what works the best, and then
Uh-huh.
you run with that one because it's critical in the franchising world that you set people up for as much success as possible. It's funny because we wound up utilizing the demographics, and the way we did the first one was the way we ran with the whole model.
I'll be darned.
Yeah.
So you started off right. That's
Wow, that was so
incredible.
really good. Yeah.
Denise, share some of the stories. Will was mentioning that you have stories to share. It sounds very heartwarming.
Yeah, I think when I worked in the club for 14 months, which was the best thing I could have ever done. Just learning how to run a club and just starting from scratch. And, it really took me by surprise the number of people that would call and say, at least 5 people, I would say, called and said they just lost a spouse and they
Oh.
really need a community. They really need to move forward in their life. And like you, I get a little emotional, but you
Mhm.
watch them come in and then you see them like 3 months later and they're like the happiest person. They have all these friends, they're going out to lunch. So that's really, really cool to see. We recently had a husband who lost his wife, and all the players pulled a bunch of money together and put it on his account just to get him out of the house and keep him playing pickleball. I mean, that's
Oh.
the kind of thing that happens. So, but that's a huge one for me. The other thing, people always come up like with mental health issues and literally say, "This saved my life." Like you have no idea. So for mental health reasons, it's been incredible for people. Loneliness is like such a huge problem, and pickleball
Huge.
solves that problem. It really does, and people tell you about it all the time.
Yeah.
Most recently, it was my league night. I play league on Monday nights, and one of the players walked up to me and said, I thank you so much. And I said, "What are you thanking me for?" And she said, "I never would have imagined at this point in my life that I would be able to play a sport that I love, that could be so much fun, and I could be competing." She's like, "I
Mm-hmm.
just never expected it. And if this wasn't here, I wouldn't be doing it." So every day people just share with you these stories. Yeah,
Hmm.
and it's pretty it makes it all worthwhile. Like it's so much hard work,
Yeah.
like you can't even imagine
No.
how hard the work is, but when you get that type of response, it's like super rewarding and makes it all worthwhile.
And we even get
So
that from the business perspective. We're very proud of many people in our organization for things that they've done. And we're not out there saying, become a pro and, have this like sleek gym kind of look. We're all about community and we're all about enriching people's lives. So our very first franchisee, his name is Steve Ator. He had a well-paying company job, but he just wasn't fulfilled in life. So he actually came by very early on in our franchising process, and he met me at our Columbia facility, and I showed him around and talked to him about it. And he wound up becoming our first franchisee to open a location. And he is just hitting it out of the park. He loves it. He's created this amazing community, and he's not far from our original location.
Is that
Mm-hmm.
right?
So it's actually enriching people's lives from a business perspective if you want to start your own business.
Mm-hmm.
We really focus on, having owner operators and family businesses because it really drives that sense of community and belonging.
Yeah.
So that's a focal point of the way we do things. So we're a little bit different than most of the franchisors in the space because everybody's in it to make money, of course.
Sure.
But for us, the money comes because of the community and the relationships that are built. So it's a different approach, and we really enjoy it. And I think that's what makes us different than most pickleball companies out there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what was my question, is how do you maintain that community feeling that is just so special as you get more and more franchises, but it sounds like it's mainly in who you pick, who you allow to have a franchise.
And
Right?
how
Yeah,
you train
so
them.
we're
Yeah.
very, we have our discovery days. They're usually every month, where people come out and they play pickleball and they socialize with us for an evening. And then the following morning is when they go through the actual, this is what the business is about, this is what franchising is about, et cetera, et cetera. And our discovery days, it's just as much them scoping us out as it is
Yeah.
us scoping them out.
Yeah.
Right.
The conversion rate of people that come to discovery day that actually become franchisees is actually fairly low, but we want it that way because
Yeah.
you need to be a special type of person to really be successful in pickleball. Um, and we enjoy the way we go about it.
And I
Well, you
think
can learn
through
a lot about people from watching them on the court. When you play with people on the
yeah.
court, yes.
You
It's
learn a
funny.
lot.
3 of our regional developers are people that were original members of Dill Dinkers.
Mm.
Uh,
Oh.
One
Mm-hmm.
group is in Pennsylvania, another group is in Sarasota, Florida, and the third group is in Maryland. So this amazing community is spawning healthy lifestyles, relationships, as well as business relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And employing other people at each facility, right? I
Mhm.
mean,
Yes.
you're helping expand the experience, like you said, business wise. Denise, you were going to say something? What were you
I was
about
just
to
going to
say?
say through our discovery days and also through we have a corporate headquarters in Columbia where we do a 4-day training for the franchisees. I think with those two experiences, they definitely pick up on our culture from meeting our
Mhm.
people, and that transfers over to when they open their club. I think that plays a big part in it as well.
You have 17 clubs right now?
Yes.
I just can't even imagine. And then what's your connection with each of your franchisees? Do you have regular contact with them or they check in with you periodically or how does that work?
We have franchise business consultants, and they each are assigned to the clubs and helping them to get open, kind of taking them through that journey of all the steps along the way. And
Oh,
using a project management system, we make sure that nothing falls through the cracks. But they basically shepherd the franchisees through the whole process from start to finish. And we have regular all hands meetings where every department every week is on a call with them a month before
oh,
they open to make sure they're ready and just to talk about what are you concerned about? What are you worried about? What do you need ideas for? So every week prior to opening, all the departments are on marketing, training, operations, programming, IT, finance. We're all there to support them. And then we go to the location. We send a team out for 4 days, and we're there to help train everybody and help them learn how to run the facility. And then a month afterwards, we continue having weekly meetings with all the departments to continue supporting and helping them.
Oh,
And we'll
nice.
do that for as long as we feel until we run out of things to talk about. So,
And then they're off and running and independent.
yeah, we do continue to support them, however.
Oh,
Yeah, the FBCs will go out once a quarter to visit and continue to have calls with them to review. And eventually they get to once a month. Right now we're on a kind of an every other week cadence for the ones who've been open for a little bit, but as time goes on, we're still there for them. They just need us less.
that's
Yeah.
so cool.
Then I'll just randomly show up. My first, and I learned that from my days at Domino's Pizza. Tom Monahan was the founder of Domino's, and he would just randomly show up anywhere in the country to visit a Domino's in the
Nice.
middle of the night, essentially. And I kind of learned that from him. It was funny, like Sarasota, they had been open, I think it was 2 weeks, and they're right near the airport. It's a 2-minute drive from the airport. So I was on my way to Orlando, and I came through there just to see it. And it was about 8:30, 8:45 at night, and I just walked in, and there was our regional developers, Tim and Heather. They were in there working their location, and they're like, "Will, what are you doing here?" I'm like, "No, came to say hi." And that's kind of like why I'm in Dallas today. I'm visiting our Dallas location and another potential location that we might be opening.
Wow.
And it goes back to like the work history that Denise and I have had. Like her strength is operations and sales.
What was your job, Denise, before you quit it?
I was in outside sales for 20 years.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Awesome.
But I also ran restaurants prior to that and weight loss centers and things like that. Yeah.
Oh, and then Will, you were already doing franchise work as well.
Yeah, I did a lot of franchise work at Domino's, and then I actually franchised for Domino's for 6 years. The career I had before this was nonprofits, helping people with disabilities obtain jobs, which was a very rewarding career.
Yeah.
Didn't pay a lot, but it was fun. So all these life experiences we brought to the table, and Brian Lloyd brought his life experiences. He worked at Xerox. He was a vice president, and our team, our executive team, they're all people that we've known. Our CFO, we knew him for over 30 years. His daughter and our daughter were on the U.S. jump rope team together.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
We actually went to England to compete at the World Jump Rope Olympics.
Oh, my gosh.
Our CTO worked at a company with me many years ago.
Wow.
Our franchise guy, he was the only one that I didn't know for a long time. His name is Ben L'Italian. He's the only one of 6 people in the world that has a doctorate in franchising.
Wow, I didn't know there was such a thing.
Sounds like an important member of the team.
So we couldn't have picked a better guy to help us with our franchise journey. So we have just this amazing team. They're all part owners of the company. And we're just, we're clicking on not all 8 cylinders. We're on 7, but it's
we're getting there.
Well, with 17 facilities and you're already looking at new ones, that I'd say 7 cylinders is doing just fine for you all.
We have the 17 open. I think over the next 3 weeks, we're opening 2 more, and we have a total of 25 under construction.
Oh my.
So by the end of the year, we're going to be between 30 and 40. We're looking at. Because our model is different than most. We have regional developers. So instead of just, one person out there trying to open new locations, we're at 25 now.
Wow.
It's not all roses. I mean, some people have become regional developers and they can't find a location because we're very particular about where you go as well. Because we realize that, people in business, you have to set yourself up for success, and you can't sign a lease that gives you no opportunity to succeed. And we've seen a lot of people make that mistake because they feel like, oh, it's a gold rush. It's going to be easy. I'll just get a lease a 50,000 square foot building and I'll put 20 courts in there and it'll be great. and they don't do all the homework. So one thing that we have is we've done the homework, and we built these locations, and we know what works or what gives you the best opportunity for a chance to make it work.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
So we don't approve every lease.
Yeah.
We have a competitor that has opened more locations than us,
Uh-huh.
but they had a year and a half head start, so they had that. But also, we're very picky about what you sign and where you go, because we don't want our franchisees to be unsuccessful.
Well, you two have had remarkable lives before pickleball, and now, and it occurs to me too, Will, your work with the disabled community. Pickleball has been such a godsend for so many people with disabilities as well, because they can participate in all different levels. So I love that synergy in that. But in all the time, that you've before pickleball or since pickleball, what are some of the life lessons that either you learned in life that you're using when you're on the court, or maybe even in your business, or that life lessons that you picked up while playing pickleball and, whoa, I need to put this in my life as well? What are some life lessons you can share?
One thing I picked up while playing pickleball and while I was running the club is, and I think I just took it for granted before, but how important it is for people to have a community to belong to something. Will and I were both coming out of part of our life where we had raised our kids, and so we were all involved in that. And, we really didn't do a lot outside of that. And then we started playing pickleball and just realized how amazing it is to have this community of people that share the same interests as you and that are kind and friendly, and you start to do things outside of pickleball with all these friends. And I don't know, and then being working in the club, I just saw it's so fun to watch it evolve with other people and how they come in by themselves, and then before you know it they're leaving with 10 people and they're talking in the parking lot for half an hour, and then they're going out to dinner together. And it's just such a, I don't know, rewarding experience. But I learned a lot about how important community is.
Yeah.
And I took it for granted before. So
Yeah.
that was
Good
one of my
point.
big lessons.
I've worked for a lot of really cool companies in my life, and never had the opportunity to be the person to establish the culture of a company and the
Ah.
direction of a company. And
Ah.
very early on, we talked about what is our culture going to be? Because when you establish a culture of a company, you also establish like the path of the people that work at the company. And one of the interesting lessons was we established this culture of our company, and it kind of permeates all of our locations. This welcoming, community based focus.
Yeah.
Um, and to me, that was probably one of the most exciting things about this, was to be able to, when I worked at Domino's, our culture was sell more pizza, have more fun. And we would often joke, if you sliced open my veins, I would bleed Domino's blue. Um, that was like the culture of the company, this
Oh,
fun, vibrant situation. And then I worked at companies where there was no culture whatsoever, or it was very negative and cancerous in a way. So to
yeah.
be able to do that, and reach out and touch people's lives, both employees as well as customers, it was a bit of a life lessons that anybody can do this if you have the right mindset, and you approach it the right way.
Hmm.
And it kind of reminds us that we set our own culture even in our lives, and to take that really seriously, that what we're doing in our lives, we want to be sure that it is in alignment with the culture that we want to be living. So and then you carried that into your business. I think that's just lovely.
Hmm.
Right.
So how can people find you and learn about if there's a facility near them, or maybe they want to be franchisees?
So right on our website, dilldinkers.com, there's click on my locations. You'll see all of the locations. And there's also a section for franchising, so they can put in an inquiry through the website. And then we have a team of people that will get back to them and call them and have a conversation and answer all their questions, and invite them to Discovery Day. That's
Hmm.
where it all starts.
And sometimes we've even done mini discovery days where they are. We recently had one in Sarasota. We had about 6 people come to a mini discovery day, we call it. One of the things about our company that's also part of our culture is we're flexibility and making things happen.
Well, this has really been fun.
Thank
I
I
you.
know.
love
Let's keep
learning about,
talking.
I know, right? I wish we could. And I was telling you before the show that some of our friends learned. We're in the West Coast. We're in Seattle area, and one of our friends has family further east, and was saying, "Oh gosh, I've heard about Dill Dinkers. I want to hear this podcast episode." So we'll let them know, and we'll let you know when
Awesome.
this podcast episode airs. But thank you so much. Thank you for taking the time. You guys couldn't be busier, and you took time out to chat with us about this. We really appreciate it.
Thanks
Yeah,
for
no
the
Yes,
problem.
we
opportunity.
do.
Thank you so much.
And you're leaving everybody with thinking about the culture they set on the court too. With every
Yes,
game, when you show up on the court, think about that, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
Thank
absolutely.
you.
Yeah.
Good point, Shelley. Thank you for that. And thank you to everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Check out, see if there's a Dill Dinkers right near you. And if you're interested in being a franchisee, reach out to them. Sounds really amazing. These two people touched our hearts, and we know that it is a wonderful backing for this whole organization to have that as the beginning. Denise and Will, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we look forward to a new conversation next week. Bye-bye.
If you love our podcast, we'd be so grateful if you'd take a few seconds to follow or subscribe to Life Lessons from Pickleball. This ensures you'll never miss an episode and helps us continue these wonderful conversations.
On Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen, go to the show page and tap the follow button in the top right corner. And on YouTube, click the subscribe button under any of the episodes.
Thanks so much. Hope to see you on the court.